President Trump, are you worried now that the next time there's a Democratic president, they will indict your FBI director or people in your administration?
That's what they tried to do, right? They did it with me for 4 years. They went after me. They went after me for 4 years, and that doesn't include the 4 great years that we had in the White House. So when I ran it from, 2016, when we won, it began before I got to office. You know that. Wait a minute. Before I came to office, I started hearing rumors about Russia. I said, what the hell do I have to do with Russia? Nothing. And then it got worse and worse, and some of the fakers, not you, but some of the fake news picked it up and they loved it. And we went through a long time with that. And despite that, we had a great first term.
All right, that was the president just moments ago answering questions about James Comey being indicted. Now, James Comey himself has responded in a video. I'll show it to you here shortly. But first, I want to start with ground news and update you on a couple of details and how the media is already spinning this story, okay? Because as you guys know, if you follow me, ground news is our tool that we like to do our research on to see exactly what's being reported from both sides of the political spectrum. Now, here's a key detail. The Justice Department presented 3 charges to a grand jury, which only agreed to proceed with 2 based on sufficient evidence. Now, when a grand jury obviously convenes, it's all secret. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they're from. We don't know what was said. It's all sealed. But this is a key detail. They only proceeded with 2.
Because that's how it went, where they made you go and take a mugshot. Is this more about justice or is it about revenge?
It's about justice, really. It's not revenge. It's about. It's also about the fact that you can't let this go on. They are sick, radical left people, and they can't get away with it. And Comey was one of the people. He wasn't the biggest, but he's a dirty cop. He's always been a dirty cop. Everybody knew it, and it's as far as the case is concerned, he gave an answer. It was just.
Yeah, he did provide an answer. It was just the wrong one. And that's exactly what the Department of Justice is focused on, is in convicting him on lying to Congress. Now, we know people have gone to prison for much less, by the way, especially when it involved Congress. But we'll see how this shakes out. Anyways, getting back to ground news. Listen, the articles are already going to tell us what the narrative is going to be. This is an article that leans left. Trump's threat to justice, meaning what? That means what mainstream media is going to run with is that the president is threatening our democracy. He is threatening what it means to serve justice, and he's setting a dangerous precedent. The problem is with that logic is that we know they did the same thing to the president times 10. So I think they are the ones who actually put things in motion, and now we're just seeing it come full circle. But guys, I love to use ground news. So does my team. Why? Because we get to see what both sides are saying. And you want that. Why? Because that means you can make up your own mind and not just be fed propaganda. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devori, or you could download the mobile app. Just use promo code Devori, and it's going to give you access to everything that I showed you in this video, including 40% off the Vantage plan.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump. But we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
All right, let's just play a little game because it's not hard to understand what's happening here. Let's say your name is Donald Trump. And as soon as you were elected back in 2016, it came out that they spied on your campaign, and now they're officially accusing you of being a Russian asset, and they're basing all of this on fraudulent intelligence, manufactured intelligence, and also they use that to impeach you. Now let's fast forward to when you left the White House. They raid your home over classified documents. They raid your wife's panty drawer. Then the banks debanked your wife and your son, Barron. Then the FBI intimidated your business associates, your friends, and your family members by showing up at their doors, warning them not to do business with you. Just imagine that for a second. Then they hit you with these sham cases, like the RICO case down in Georgia, the business fraud in New York, and then Colorado trying to remove you off the ballot. Now, let's just stop there for a second, okay? You don't think someone had to commit a crime to do any of this to you? Of course they did. Someone lied somewhere. Someone manufactured paperwork somewhere to pull this off. There's no way you would do that to a former president unless you were trying to bend the law, find loopholes, or in some cases, violate the law, which is what James Comey did. So having said all of that, let's say you take back the White House. You don't think you want the DOJ to investigate these people for potential crimes? Of course you do. That's exactly what's going on here. Now, here's the president answering the question, will other people be indicted? Take a listen.
Not there.
Mr. President, I'm James Comey. Now that James Comey has been indicted, who is the next person on your list in this retribution?
It's not a list, but I think there'll be others. I mean, they're corrupt. These were corrupt, radical left Democrats, because Comey essentially was he's worse than a Democrat. I would say the Democrats are better than Comey. But
Okay, so I believe a series of things are true at the same time. I think number one, the president has things going on in our country and outside our country that are much more important than James Comey, in my opinion, okay? I think that's true. Secondly, I think it's also true that people like James Comey, they had to commit a crime because the way they went after the president, they had to break some rules here or there or change the rules or even possibly lie to Congress like James Comey did, allegedly. And I think number three, Democrats are going to try to play the victim the entire time. And if anyone ever brings up that, hey, Democrats in mainstream media has always targeted the president from day one, you don't think he was ever going to respond? I mean, anybody would. That they'll just get upset at that, okay? They'll try to take that as the president trying to be a victim, and he's not. I think he's just doing the logical thing that anyone would do if you had experienced what he had experienced, especially over the past 4 years. Remember, they tried to assassinate him. But I don't think Chris Cuomo sees it that way because him and Bill O'Reilly had a debate over this very idea. Take a listen.
Unlike you, Cuomo, I'm not a mind reader. I know that in certain areas, big areas, important areas, he's trying to do the right thing for the country. I know that. Now, the petty stuff, that's where he gets into trouble. But I'm trying to say, look, you're at a point in history now where there are severe problems that you have to deal with. Don't
I agree.
Run yourself down by getting involved with Jimmy Kimmel. But
I agree. That's great advice.
Trump's outrage is righteous because he knows for the past 10 years that 5 major television news organizations and every urban newspaper in this country have tried to destroy him. And it's natural to seek retribution because if they try to destroy him, they're going to try to destroy me or you or whatever. And Trump has exposed that at the highest level.
I don't agree with that analysis. I think Trump gets more criticism than anybody else. He also asks for more criticism than anybody else. And he also says more of what you call petty things than we've ever had to process before. And there's no question that everything's out of control. But the idea that he's a victim of it, and that's the end of the analysis, I disagree.
Yeah, so that's Chris Cuomo being Chris Cuomo. And he's not even listening to what Bill O'Reilly is saying. What he's saying is that, you know, these media companies, journalists, CNN, right, commentators, pundits, these legacy outlets, they made it their life's purpose to go after the president in so many different ways. And they don't have to. They chose to do that. And as a result, they destroyed themselves. So it's not that the president is a victim and the president hasn't said he's a victim. And I don't think that's the point Bill O'Reilly was saying. He was just saying that, listen, we have a president who's been attacked more than any other president in history. So it's natural that he would feel defensive. It's natural he would, when given opportunities to try to hold these people accountable, that he would take it. Anybody would do that. To expect otherwise, I think, is being delusional.
Okay, but now I'm going to prove you wrong. On the No Spin News tonight, I had John Malone. You know Malone, right? A billionaire, oversaw Time Warner Discovery, which runs CNN. And he was
right before they fired
to come
me.
on because he knew it wasn't going to be a cupcake interview like all the others that Mr. Malone did because, you know, I said to him, when you watched what CNN has become, you were there. You're a huge stockholder. You saw it. Mm-hmm. You're smart enough to see it. You actually said stuff about it. They destroyed themselves by going into the Trump, I hate him mode and away from the James Earl Jones, this is CNN, we cover the world, into petty, we hate him, whatever it is, we don't like it.
Yeah, so having to talk about this stuff every single day, you start to see the lessons that could really improve the quality of your life, especially when you're talking about human behavior. And that Democrats believe they have not done anything wrong over the past 10 years. Ever since President Trump announced he was going to run, they believe they haven't done anything wrong. And that's where they go wrong. They don't realize that the risk of attacking a president, then accusing him as a Russian asset, going after his family, his business associate, all this stuff, you don't think that has a cost? You don't think it's going to come around? And what's crazy about all this, even still today, they see it that way. In fact, they're acting like they are now the victims, okay? And now they're threatening and saying, well, Republicans need to understand that what goes around comes around. Here is Senator Blumenthal saying those words last night.
My colleagues have to draw a line. My Republican colleagues have to grow a spine here. For a decade, I have been waiting time after time, the Mueller report, the impeachment trial, again and again, for Republicans to say it is a bridge too far. And in effect, to say we need to preserve basic norms, essential rules that protect all of us. And the old saying, what comes around goes around. Mm-hmm. You know, today it's a Republican president, but degrading the democracy and ruining, literally perverting the great ethos and tradition of the Department of Justice, where I was in awe when I walked through those halls as a federal prosecutor. I think it's time for Republican colleagues to say enough is enough, and we are going to push them and do it hard on the Senate floor, privately, in the Judiciary Committee meetings, every moment, every opportunity. But
okay, so that was Senator Blumenthal, which he's a liar in his own right. He lied about his military service, including being deployed to Vietnam, and I can go all day with that, but let me stop. The point here is that they're going to try to play the victim and convince the people of America that the president is on a war path and he's targeting his political opponents, and that's all this is. And they're not going to tell you the full story behind it. Now, more importantly, if we remove all the noise and just focus on the legal aspect of this case now, what does the Department of Justice have to prove to make sure that James Comey is likely to be convicted? Take a listen.
Just want to know the case against Comey, how you see it playing out, and what the strengths and the weaknesses of the case are.
Yeah, hey, Harris, always great to be back with you. Yeah, so this is a potentially challenging case. Why? Because prosecutors have to prove two things on the perjury or false statement charge. They've got to prove that first Comey authorized McCabe to do the leak to the Wall Street Journal. Why is that problematic? Because now there's a dispute as to whether McCabe said it the day after. In other words, the day after he leaked it, he allegedly went to Comey and said, hey, I leaked this. And then you've got Ted Cruz saying that McCabe got authorization from Comey. It's important because it creates kind of a factual quagmire, right? You've got Comey up against McCabe in trying to prove the false statement, and the Office of Inspector General already came down on McCabe saying that he's not really a credible witness. So that proves difficult. And then the second element on the perjury charge, Harris, that's challenging for prosecutors, they've got to prove that Comey said this knowingly and willfully. That he knowingly and willfully lied. The standard is not he was careless when he said it or he was reckless when he said it. That's a harder standard to prove beyond a reasonable doubt in a federal court. You've got hopefully they have something like a text message or an email or possibly another independent witness that can corroborate that. So let's see what the evidence is on there. Do they have additional evidence to prove that?
So in other words, this is an uphill battle. And even if James Comey is not convicted, at least people will get to see the evidence they have against him and the crimes that, according to the Department of Justice, James Comey committed. And they will be able to provide receipts of that, and the public can make up their own mind. But as I told you guys earlier in this video, I don't think people really care at the end of the day, as long as their lives continue to improve. Okay, I think Americans at this point, we are results driven. Now, 87 million people, whether you like it or not, or excuse me, 77 million people, whether you like it or not, voted for the president to do this. They knew he would go after people like James Comey because they believe James Comey committed crimes against the president. That's why I say it's not really a surprise for many people. And I hope they do show the evidence publicly so people could see it for themselves, amongst all what we've already seen up to this point. Now, speaking about the public, there was a individual who called into C-SPAN this morning, and I found this exchange to be hilarious because it represents the problem in our country. This guy calls in talking about how James Comey is perfect. He did everything by the book, and the president's just crazy. Take a listen.
And for Trump to go after Comey at this point is very obvious, the trail that led up to this and his feelings about Comey. And the only mistake Comey ever made was getting involved with Trump.
Well, David, how do you respond to this? This is the Associated Press back in 2019. According to Inspector General Watchdog, Comey violated FBI policies in handling of memos. And this is what the Inspector General found. Violated FBI policies in his handling of memos documenting private conversations with President Trump. The Watchdog office said Comey broke bureau rules by giving one memo containing unclassified information to a friend with instructions to share the content with a reporter. Comey also failed to return his memos to the FBI after he was dismissed in May of 2017, retaining copies of some of them in a safe at home and shared them with his personal lawyers without permission from the FBI. Goes on to say the report is the second in as many years to criticize Comey's actions as FBI director, following a separate Inspector General rebuke for decisions made during the investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server. It is one of multiple Inspector General investigations undertaken in the last 3 years into the decisions and actions of Comey and other senior FBI leaders. Now, David, you said Comey didn't make any mistakes.
Say something? Yeah. Okay. Well, what I like to say is that's cost of doing business. Okay. And when Trump had all those documents in his house, Florida, Mar-a-Lago home, what about that? Did that ever get followed up on? Okay. What about all the things that he has done, making his own Bitcoin, about going after his political enemies? What about his selling cars from Elon Musk on the White House lawn? If any other president, especially Obama, if he did that, what would we be hearing from the Republicans?
So you mean to tell me that the FBI director at the time was working against the president by recording his conversations with the president, which violates FBI rules and regulations, so that he could attack the president and impeach him during his time in office? That means we have the FBI director looking to sabotage the duly elected president of the United States. And you say he's the victim? That James Comey is the victim and he did everything right? Come on, give me a break. But this is how people think. All right, let's hear from you guys in the comment section below. Do you believe James Comey deserved to be indicted, including the investigation against him by the Department of Justice? And secondly, do you agree that it was Democrats who set these chain of events into motion, going all the way back to 2016 when they spied on his campaign and accused him of being a Russian asset, manufactured intelligence in order to impeach the president? Do you believe that is probably the starting point of all of this? And then it really reached its peak when they raided his home over classified documents, then debanked his wife and his son, Barron. You let me know if you guys agree with my thinking that if that had happened to you and you became the president again, you wouldn't want to seek justice regarding that? Let me know if you guys see it the same way. Just put your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, in our next video, more details have been released in regards to the Dallas ICE shooting I think this information is going to shock you as Democrats continue to gaslight America over that event. So if you missed out on that update and more from yesterday, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.